Welcome to E for Electric, live from Bangkok. Now, electric cars are done. Stick a fork in them, they're done. Everybody who's making them is going to go belly up. At least that's what I'm hearing from pretty much everywhere. Social media, regular media, comment section of my channel. And I've been doing this for like 10 years, and I've never seen so much sort of hate and disbelief or lack of trust in electric cars, and people genuinely thinking that electric cars are really done. Now let's talk about it. Let's talk about whether or not we're actually in trouble, and why we're hearing so much about electric cars just done. Now let me tell you that I have decided to go live every Wednesday, and you probably see me go live with Warren Redlick, if you know who he is. And we decided to do it every Wednesday. And second week into it, only a few hours before that, he said, like, I'm not feeling it. So it's unfortunate because I really do enjoy talking to Warren, and I thought we would have really cool discussions. And last week, I was actually hosting this huge event at the main Bangkok Queen's Convention Center, and I've posted one video with some highlights. I'll post another video pretty soon. So I just couldn't go live. It was a 4-hour hosting MC session, so I was just like out of my voice, out of energy, and so. But I decided, okay, you know what? Forget about Warren. Maybe one of these days he'll come on again. We'll have a good chat. I just enjoy doing these. I don't even care if anyone's watching. No, I mean I do care if anyone's watching because I do like the interaction. But first, I'm going to talk about about the electric cars. Okay, now I already can see that the chat here is not working. So good start. And that means that I have to contact customer support. Let's see if they can figure this out live. All right. Now, if you're watching me right now, let me know where you're watching me from, what time it is there. It is 1 in the morning here in Bangkok, but I go to bed pretty late. I go to bed around 4 o'clock. Oh, no, there you go. I think we are getting some messages. Okay, fine. And yeah, so I'm just gonna do this live streams for a few weeks and see how it goes, because I do like interacting with you guys. Now I'm thinking about bringing some guests also on top of that. And Now next week, I've noticed that when I posted a short video about moving to Thailand, it's been getting a lot of views, especially on Instagram, and people are asking me questions and of course calling me names, because most people get their information, or a lot of Americans especially get their information about Thailand from the Hangover 2 movie. Oh, Timothy in Singapore. Well, we're pretty much almost in the same time zone. Singapore is one of the countries next on my list to visit here in Southeast Asia. I've done now half. I visited half of the countries in Southeast Asia. I was in Korea actually a couple of weeks ago, checking out the home of Hyundai and Kia and Genesis. So that was kind of fun, and you guys probably seen some of my videos. And by the way, for those of you who haven't caught on or don't know, I switched from the long form content to short form content, because I can post them on other social media. They're more fun. I love making them, and I make post usually one or usually two per day, and I feel like that is way more fun if you ask me. So, all right. Now, let me know what you guys are actually into, because I'm just going to figure it out. Now, the next one, I am going to talk about, my life in Thailand, why I moved, what I think about, after a year. I moved here as a passport bro. I know it triggers a lot of people, but I've also realized that I have not met another passport bro here in over a year. And I'm pretty active. I mean, you can probably tell I'm pretty outgoing guy. So I'm pretty active, and yet not a single one. So and the majority of men who come here and date women, they kind of do the same old thing that they've done in America, which I don't think works anymore. But that's what we're going to discuss in the next video. Oh, and by the way, I also feel like America is a third world country now that I think about it, because there's just like healthcare and low crime and all that stuff. But like I said, we'll talk about it in the next one. And if that does well, maybe I'll do more live streams about my life. But I will take any questions at some point. But let's talk about what the hell is happening with electric cars. Now, no doubt, we as an industry are having a tough year. The A lot of people saying sales are down. Now that is not true, and it's not true because of math. If you look at the car sales year over year, not quarter over quarter, a lot of people say, "Oh, look, they sell way less cars in the first quarter of a fourth quarter." All car sales go down in the first quarter. This is not even news for electric cars or gas cars. So that's number one. Number two is now there is one company that's dragging the electric car sales down, and it's Tesla. Tesla's actually sales have gone down year over year in first and second quarters. So that has been a problem. Now it wasn't as bad in the second quarter, so that's good. And there are some other manufacturers that have not done very well. I mean, Volkswagen Group, honestly, as soon as they got rid of Herbert Diess, I just knew that this was a horrible idea. And now they looks like I just read an article that they might be closing an electric car factory. So, and then of course Fisker going out of business, which really had nothing to do with the product. The product wasn't that bad. It had everything to do with Fisker himself. And I've made a video about it. And I've heard a lot throughout the industry how everybody hated him, and everybody really does. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, Fisker did not exactly help the already ongoing, electric cars are done thing. But electric cars are not done at all. And by the way, companies like Volkswagen, who are going to be scaling the production, or even Ford, are essentially just going to lose market share, and that's what's going to happen. But sales are up and up and up. What has slowed down, and I don't think people understand this, unfortunately, what has gone down is growth, right? The let's say 5 years ago, every year twice as many or three times as many electric cars sold, because there was very little out there, and a lot of people were jumping in. But now it is much harder to double or triple sales year over year. So the growth has slowed, but there is still growth. Means that more electric cars are being sold year over year by pretty much most manufacturers, unfortunately, except for Tesla. I I really and I just published a video about why that is, and a lot of times in there was just a study done by New York Times, I think, and a lot of people are blaming Elon Musk, which I just see. It's unfortunate. Um, so if you look at the numbers, generally speaking, electric car sales are still growing and relatively strong, depending also, of course, in America, not as strong, but in Asia, definitely here in Bangkok. Holy crap. I mean, I've only got here about a year ago, and I can tell you that the number of electric cars on the streets and just number of electric cars available to buy at least quadrupled. I mean, at least quadrupled. And we do have the BYD Dolphin, right? For example, and Aura Cat. They're very affordable. There is no tariffs here because they're made in China, and so in some countries it's growing. Obviously, Norway is still being a shining example in the industry. So the sales are growing. So facts are facts. However, why are people saying they are not? And I think there's a couple of reasons here. First of all, obviously the slowdown and Fisker and other issues have triggered a lot of people who were kind of like, oh, I hated electric cars, but as soon as they realized that sales maybe not as strong, they kind of came out of the woodworks and say, I see, I told you so. So a lot of those. But what I really noticed, and this is where I get a lot of comments, negative comments about electric cars, is when I talk, but when I feature something out of the politics, right? And first of all, I'm an independent, not a Democrat, not a Republican, but when Pete Buttigieg has to explain some dumb U.S. congressman, which a lot of times, unfortunately, the Republican, and including Donald Trump, who's now came out against electric cars, even though he was very much for them at some point, especially when the Lordstown factory opened, right? Which kind of he in some way orchestrated, which good for him. You know what I mean? I'm not a Trump hater. It's good that he did that, but unfortunately now he flipped, and it's not exactly. I'm not exactly 100% sure. Between all of his rants, and at one point he started talking about being eaten by sharks rather than being electrocuted by a battery and a I'm not quite sure if he is against mandates or incentives for electric cars, or he is against electric cars in general. So I'm not quite sure yet, and maybe he'll qualify one day, maybe he won't. If he does become a president, then I'm sure we'll find out. Though I think the infrastructure bill and act will not be that easy to kind of stop, but maybe slow down. So that would be unfortunate because we do need the infrastructure. Hey, Crystal, how are you? Good to see you. Crystal, my friend, she's been on the show a few times. Probably the most knowledgeable person on solar energy. She is in Las Vegas, where I used to live for a minute, and I just recently sold my home that was in Las Vegas. I'm also selling my home in Houston, Texas, which was my last place where I lived in America. Gonna keep my house in Sacramento for the time being because I really like that house a lot. I put so much energy and money and heart and soul into it. Um, okay, well, Ron, right here, I'm going to assume you are a Trump supporter. So let's hear from you. Ron says, come on, Trump isn't against electric cars. He's against mandates and wants people to have a choice. And he likes and supports Elon Musk. So, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I said, right? I'm not sure if he's against electric cars or against the mandates. Though you can argue if kind of you're against mandates and against the incentives, you're not really very friendly to electric car industry, but we'll see. You never know. And also, candidates who talk about stuff a lot of times don't always convert right into they convert their promises into reality, and sometimes they just can't, right? Now, Crystal says Elon's increasingly erratic business and personal decisions are really hurting the public's perception of Tesla electric cars, which is affecting sales. So I think it's affecting Tesla sales. And like I said, what is it? New York Times just came out with a survey that they did. Not that they really needed to. I think it was pretty obvious that Elon is hurting sales. And also, I think Elon announcing that he's a Republican and he's very, it's obviously turning a lot of Democrats off, right? Because I mean, they probably could argue, and like I said, I'm not a Democrat myself, but I'm sure liberals and Democrats can argue that, well, why do I want to support someone and give them money? Essentially, almost it's like contributing to the Republicans, campaigns, So in maybe in some ways it is, but in generally speaking, I've said it many times, but it's up to the investors. And Crystal, I actually don't know. Are you an investor in Tesla? Because I think to me, the way to sort of really put your money where your mouth is, right? And I'm not just talking to you, Crystal, specifically. I'm just in general. If you're a Tesla investor and you see, the CEO acting this way to the point where it either conflicts with your own morals or you believe it's going to damage sales, like they are now, you would just pull out of the stock, right? You just say, well, listen, I don't want to invest in a company that I think is too unstable. Let's see. Ron says, where did Elon say he's a Republican? I don't believe he is. What do you mean where? Google it, man. He definitely announced that he is essentially Republican, and he is definitely have gone very much right. You can just, but I do remember there was a tweet where he just said it. And I think this was just not a very good thing to do as a CEO of a company where, you're supposed to be like, why would you alienate, oh, I can't pronounce words. Why would you abandon essentially half of the country or so? I don't know, 40% of the country. Let's see. So this one that what Crystal says back. Oh, I'm having you guys are having conversations through me. I love it. Firing the entire supercharging team destroyed trust in Tesla with other car makers, utilities, municipalities, and private landowners who were all left hanging. Yeah, so that's the thing. I do agree. This was it, and it sounds like it was not only obviously it was a bad decision, which he is now backpedaling on. Right, they're rehiring Kristen. I don't know if you know this, but he's rehiring people back because obviously that was just dumb. But I mean, listen, we can go on and on and on and on. Bottom line is, people, he's turning people off. And he's turning people off to the point where now sales are suffering. And that's that. Oh, whoa, Crystal. Whoa, I'm selling off my entire stake in Tesla. Now, I got to tell you guys, Crystal has been as big of a fan without being a Tesla fangirl, fanatic, um, than anyone I know. She's supported that she drives a Tesla, and I think it's her second or third, right? And she's been always supportive. Crystal, you're president of one of the local fan clubs or owner clubs, but either way, so listen, you can also look at me, right? I was the original Tesla fanboy. I mean, before all these influencers, before all these people talking about Tesla, before any of them even knew how to spell Tesla, I already had my own, right? I was one of the first 3,000 owners in 2012 buying a car. And at that time, that was risky. And I also bought stock when it was risky, when you could literally lose your money, right? Like, look what happened with Fisker and many other companies. So, it's definitely a problem that needs to be solved. I For many years I thought that Elon should step down as the CEO, but not that doesn't mean, see, this is the thing, people think it's just black or white. I think he should step down as the CEO, but continue as a CTO. He should lead the development efforts still, but another adult would take over as the CEO. I think Herbert Dees would be great. I don't think he would want the job. He already turned it down once when Elon offered to him many years ago. But for me, like, if I was to ever be comfortable investing into Tesla, that's what would need to happen. Um, okay, yeah. So Crystal says that she's an admin of Tesla Owners Club of Las Vegas, and I think I hang out with them once. So it is. Oh, look at that! Straight talk with Aaron Dante. It says, I'm coming to Thailand next month and I will give you some good Elon stories. But I agree with Crystal. Please do tell me how you know all these Elon stories. And if you do have some stories that haven't been told yet, let's hang out. And generally speaking, anybody who's coming to Thailand, if you want to experience Thailand as a real guest and as a real country, and not just go to Soy Cowboy or whatever you've seen in Hangover 2, I would be more than happy to at the very least recommend places, if not just meet you for lunch and just show you around, even myself. Because what people know about Thailand through Hangover 2, as great of a movie as it is, and what it really is just two such different things, you know? So, Jay Ramirez asks, do I have an EV now? I do not, because first of all, Bangkok is the city where the gridlock is everywhere. And on top of that, honestly, I have changed my life since coming here in so many different ways. In one of the ways, I realized that driving a car is the worst part of my day. It's stressful. Just owning a car is just so much money and stress. I can't do anything else pretty much while I'm driving. And here is literally just much cheaper for me to pay for an Uber, which is called Grab here, and full self-driving, by the way, and be able to work on the back seat of the car, or learn Thai a little bit better. My Thai kind of sucks still, even though it's been a year. It is a hard language. Um, Pasta Thai pom my Deloy crap. So, but I'm doing my best. Um, let's see. Now, before I see, this is how much I love interacting with you guys. Actually, that's why I'm doing it. I'm not gonna lie. I started doing live, and I want to continue. It's because I enjoy it. I don't care how many views or how much money you're gonna spend on super chats here. Mm, Yeah. So I just love talking to you guys. So it looks like I should probably continue, because last we're already getting more views than before. And by the way, I'm also streaming, and I'm just going to check myself if or maybe somebody else can check on me. I'm also supposed to be streaming on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. So if any of you guys have a second just to confirm that it's really happening, that would be that would be awesome, because I can't do it unless last time I was. So let's see. So the well, I guess that was my last point about that, how everything is political. It's one of the things, by the way, I enjoy here in Thailand, is that people not talking politics and people not hating each other because Biden and Trump and everything. I genuinely enjoy people not having that type of almost hate for each other. So and as soon Trump mentioned electric cars, and then Biden, and then became political, and now it's kind of like people who hate electric cars don't even know why they hate electric cars. I mean, every time that U.S. congressmen butt heads with Buttigieg or whoever, they have arguments what I call of like a drunk 5-year old. They're just not. They just hate the electric cars, and they don't know why. And by the way, if you are one of those people who think electric cars are done, or it's please do let me know, because I do want to know why, if we can have a decent civil conversation. But yes, I've decided I'm not going to have a car here. When I do have an option to get an electric car, especially when I was in Europe, I always try to do that. um, and if I was to have a car here, obviously it would be electric. In the building where I live in, we do have electric car chargers, and that's actually becoming a thing here, electric cars and the infrastructure, because again, it's not a political thing. A lot of people go like, yeah, we electric cars, sure, another choice for consumer, why not? So it is, yeah. So and it is almost freeing not to have to drive, even though I do love cars and electric cars, particularly, obviously. But sometimes you just have to. And this does give me an opportunity, by the way, living here, to check out so many different cars that you guys don't have over there. And when I go to Europe, I get to see other cars. So um, it has definitely been very interesting. Straight Talk with Aaron Dante says Elon would require skip level with his direct report managers weekly. Weekly, I said across him. Oh, okay. Well, listen, hit me up. I'm at E for Electric everywhere. Probably Twitter and Instagram would be the best way to get a hold of me. And like I said, if you're here, man, I'm happy to at least give you some pointers of where to go if you want to experience like real Thai life here, which is amazing. Um, Jerry Ramirez says that I should have another channel for Passport Bros. So interestingly, you said that because I actually just finished a podcast. I was a guest on a pretty popular podcast called TripAdvice, where I talked about how this whole Passport Bro movement thing has been kind of a lie. Not to me, but to you guys. Because I have not met another Passport Bro here in over a year, even though I'm very active and I'm out and about. And then a couple of days ago, I was a guest on another podcast for men's rights. It's a thing now in America, unfortunately. Also talking about that as well, and just differences in dating and how why. I mean, that's originally the reason I came here, right? I just did not see a reason to date in America anymore. I'm looking for a very particularly, traditional woman, and but I stayed for all other reasons. So, and I thought about starting my own channel. Unfortunately, when you talk about men's rights, when you talk about what's happening with dating, all of these platforms um, consider that hate speech, consider it women bashing, no matter how respectful and polite and most importantly factually correct you are. So I don't want to start a channel, develop it into something that even E for Electric is now, and then just lose my account because somebody at YouTube or TikTok, which happens all the time, decides they don't like me, because that's a thing, and that's why, people say, wow, you're such an Elon hater. I love the fact that Elon bought X, Twitter, as dumb as it was to rename it. But the fact that there is a platform where people can say whatever they want to say is a good thing to me. You know what I mean? Because I think all of these platforms have gone way over top. I remember I made a video, and this was like on my personal channel, and I said, "Hey, Andrew Tate was wrong when he told people about what's happening here in Thailand." Right? That's all I said. That video was taken down for hate speech, and I figured, okay, they're dumb TikTok AI robots. Heard the name Andrew Tate. They're like, we don't like Andrew Tate. Well, we're going to ban the video that mentions it. But in my case, I was saying that I was disagreeing with him. So I submitted what do you call it? A dispute or whatever. So a human being would review it. And after a human being reviewed it, they came to the same conclusion, right? So this is why I don't want to start another channel about dating here, because first, I don't even think there's a big audience out there. I don't think a lot of men in America even realize what's happening. So why? And secondly, I'm not even preaching. You guys like dating women in America, fine. You know what I mean? It's like, if you're happy, I'm happy. I don't care. But for me, this was my personal choice, and I don't want to preach. If people are interested, like those podcasts that I give interviews to, then I'm happy to share. But as far as having it into like a whole project, no, thank you. All right, here's the next comment. Uh, Gas Dorfic Moncher says, just because Tesla can't make a $39,000 Cybertruck pretty much destroys their profit revenues. So here's the thing. My channel is about consumers. I don't care how much profits or non-profits this company's made. I really don't care. Yes, Elon promised a lot of things that he couldn't really live up to. One of the This one, I don't blame him as much. Now, granted, you shouldn't be announcing a car that you cannot make for 4 years. That's a problem. But Ford and Chevy have also announced their electric trucks at what, about 30, the same price, right? And neither one of them actually came out. As a matter of fact, the cheapest Silverado right now is like 80,000, right? And they will never make them for 39,000, even after the incentives, because we went through COVID, the shortage, the chip shortage, and just inflation and stuff like that. So that's a problem when you promise something, and then all of this happens. Just in terms of inflation, you can no longer make a Cybertruck or F-150 Lightning for that type of money. That's why you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be announcing cars for more than a year ahead. That's what I think. And by the way, we're still waiting for the Roadster, right? So I don't blame him for this one, because but there's plenty to talk about otherwise. Crystal says Elon is getting bored. He's breaking things. Tesla needs to split into two companies. Elon needs to go do AI and robot. Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, Tesla really should split into. I don't know if they should split an AI separate company, because I think there's AI for self-driving and AI for robots, which are very different. But definitely, I would say, well, they did acquire, a Solar City. So, but I would split it into energy, cars, and robots, and I think that would be pretty reasonable. Though I almost still don't care. And I don't know if he's bored. Actually, I think he's just, unfortunately, he's just became someone that's just no longer helping even with his own company, right? And there was Oh yeah, I just filmed the video earlier today, by the way, in a beautiful spot in one of the biggest parks here in Bangkok. I mean, just magical spots. So if anything, check that out. By the way, it's weird when I started making my short videos, I try to showcase Bangkok or other countries that I go and visit, like Seoul or Prague or Stockholm. And I thought, well, that's going to be kind of entertaining, except for seeing my wall for the last 3 years, right? And not a single one of you fuckers mentioned that. Hey man, what's happening behind you? What city is this? How is it you're standing in the middle of this or this and this and thing? So I've been kind of disappointed by you guys not paying attention to what's going on behind me. It's almost like you're concentrating on my face, and I appreciate that, but uh, I don't know. I really do put some effort into finding really cool backgrounds for me. So yeah. But anyway, so as I was making that video earlier today, it's about how now Elon Musk, it looks like they've been caught in a scam to cover up a scam. Now, you guys probably know, I think the full self-driving is a scam. Whenever you charge money for something and you don't deliver it and you don't give people money back, and especially you're doing it knowingly, I think it's a scam. But what turns out, and I think Electric published Business Insider published an article, and they've interviewed like a dozen of current and former Tesla employees. Usually you need two sources, but they had like 2 plus 10 sources that apparently Elon's engineers have sort of concentrated their efforts into fixing any type of errors and improving the full self-driving software, specifically for the routes that Elon takes regularly and the top Tesla fanboy influencers do. They kind of figure them out, which I'm sure is also a huge violation of their privacy, but let's set that aside. And they started implementing that. So Elon himself and those influencers would tell all of you guys how great FSD is. So, but in reality, a lot of independent observers and people who have Teslas who are not particularly big influencers or Tesla fans, they're reporting something completely different, which now makes sense. And so, and by the way, I don't even know where NHTSA and the government regulators are on all of this, but all of that is just unfortunate, And this is where I would have loved having Warren here to talk about, what's the other side. Warren says that a lot of people, probably including me, have Elon bad syndrome. Well, I can't have Elon bad syndrome because I do think that a lot of things that he has done very well, like getting X to actually be the only sort of almost freedom of speech type of platform. But I would love to ask Warren if he's suffering from Elon good syndrome, where no matter what Elon does, there's always an excuse when he does something shitty. But of course, when he does something right, then well, he's just the best human being on earth. Sorry, I've been talking a lot today, and I was a guest on a podcast earlier. Let's see. Crystal, here's another comment. A stable adult needs to run the car and super charger division. It needs to churn out reliable, high volume without Elon's help. Yeah, I mean, listen, you're preaching to acquire here. I think, and this is something that Tesla community, I feel like they don't address that. Hey, this was a really, 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 really bad idea. All right, thank you, Dave, for confirming that I am streaming on X, Twitter. Now we have to say, artist formerly known as Prince, platform formerly known as Twitter. That's a weird comment. Joker MP1 says Howard Stern now woke. By the way, it depends on what you mean by woke, and I don't know what Howard Stern now does. I used to really like Howard Stern, but then once he moved to Sirius Radio and started doing some weird stuff, I kind of just stopped. Jerry Ramirez says living in America is expensive. Yes, but here's the thing. When you're paying more money for something and getting better service for it, then it's not expensive. Then it's just worth it, right? And it used to be that way, by the way, especially living in California. I did not mind at all. I paid tons and tons of taxes in California. I thought it was just fine. But now I can confirm that here in Thailand, like I said, I wouldn't go back. I mean, I have the healthcare is so much better here if you have private insurance and go to a private hospital, which I do. Low crime, better food, and I don't mean just taste wise, but the way it's sourced. There's nothing. I mean, essentially, this is mainly organic food here. Kind and respectful people, peaceful. Just there's no like woke stuff on here, ultra right stuff on there. None of that stuff. Everybody gets along. I literally, there's an area that I frequent once in a while where we have Muslim women walking in full burqas, shoulder to shoulder with lady boys or trans women here. They call themselves lady boys here. And nobody complains about anything, not about bathroom, not about burqas, not about nothing. Everyone just gets along, So, and on top of that, it is much, much cheaper. Like I'll give you an example, right? So at lunch, I usually try to, against my doctor's order sometimes, I like to get some sliced duck over rice with duck soup and duck blood cubes. I don't know. I like the blood cubes, but essentially it's duck blood that's kind of been jelloed and cut in cubes. All of that I get for about, depending on a Thai baht conversion to a dollar, I get it for about $1.80. And so I mean, almost everything here is just so much cheaper, but you get so much more for it. But just available, amazing, top of the line healthcare is just and of course, don't get me started on dating. Let's see. Next comment from Gastorfic Muncher. Gastorfic Muncher. I have been driving an electric car 8 years. Nothing a grown. The charging structure. I can't go anywhere in India. Okay, I'm gonna, I think, translate this right. First of all, congratulations on driving an electric car for 8 years. That means you were an early adopter like I was and Crystal was. And yeah, the infrastructure is a problem. I think this is the biggest problem for electric cars, specifically, not even just, long distance travel, which is getting much better, especially with Tesla superchargers being opening up at least to other brands, which I still don't understand why they did it. It's so stupid, but okay. But if you live in an apartment complex, still in America, most of the time you're not going to have a dedicated charging station at your dedicated spot. I just don't understand why those laws have not been passed, or even apartment complexes figured out that you just get a better um, tenants with better income. But okay, let's move on. Well, Crystal says, curious what your take on that point of view would be, Aaron. Okay, well, you guys talk among themselves. I can't be sending messages back and forth between you guys. Um, let's see. Interesting. Joker MP1 says in Canada, men outnumber women. I don't care. It's not about how many women are. There's plenty. It's the quality, of single women. And again, it depends on what you're looking for. What I'm looking for is no longer a thing in America. So that's why I'm here. Straight talk with Aaron. Dante says, "Oh my God, my friend owns the trademark for Passport Bro. He started an app." As I said on both podcasts the other day, this should not, first of all, I hate the name Passport Bro. I hate the name. Um, and there's also Passport King, but I also think that's a little too full of yourself. Okay, fine. But I just don't think Passport Bro should even be a thing. There shouldn't even be a word for it because, like I said, there's very, very, very few of us. And those dudes who you see with this pretty Thai women or pretty Filipino women or whatever that are in your TikTok feed, they're not Passport Bros. A lot of times, these guys are actually still very much simps. And the way they get those women is by essentially buying them, unfortunately. So that does not make you a Passport Bro at all. Um, let's see. Another question from Joker MP1. Why Tesla can't build a $5,000 car uh, when China can? Well, I don't think Tesla wants to, right? And don't forget, China has a more unified policy and everything where the government is involved. And government of China decided that the way they're going to dominate the world is by electric cars, which, by the way, they may not actually be off that far off from what, and that's why there's a 100% tariff that the current administration that put on electric cars made in China. Um, I don't know if I fully agree with it, but I understand why, and this is why. And by the way, do you really want to? By the way, they're not $5,000 car. I think the cheapest one that came out right now is $10,000 car, and it's not very good. I mean, for $10,000, you're gonna get something not that great, and that only works for very small number of people. You're probably better off buying a used electric car. I would say at this point, especially with prices falling so fast. Sorry, guys. Hydration is important here in Bangkok. Let's see. Lou Monte says, "No, do not split Tesla. It's a big picture. Give Elon the chance. He has proved so far." Okay, well, I'm not doing anything. It's up to Elon, obviously. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I don't. What do you mean? He's proven himself so far. I think he's proving himself that he shouldn't be running Teslas. Is what we were talking about in the first place. Okay, Mr. R says Tesla is a software company that makes cars. Elon needs to become CTO or step down. Like this, I agree. So I'm not really sure if it's just a software company, right? Because you still have to make cars and you have to make batteries, which is a big part of the car, and efficient motors and many, many other things. So that's important. And then there's all of course, the supercharger network. So it's not a soft. I know people say that, and I know Elon says that, but I think it's just to sell stock at a higher price that rather than this being actual reality. Larry says Elon has made so much more. He has done so much more to the infrastructure of charging than any other car company. Tim, for them to step up and match Elon. Oh, tell him. Okay. Here's the thing. Well, again, I can't tell him, and I agree with you. The Tesla infrastructure is the best thing about Tesla. As most car, a lot of Tesla owners would agree. But that's why I don't understand why he decided to open it up to others, despite the fact that there will be a lot of money coming in from the infrastructure bill. So, but at the same time, listen, nobody argues that Elon has done a lot of amazing things in many different ways. However, that's not an excuse to start actually screwing your customers, screwing your shareholders, and just overall being a shitty human being who actually affects people's lives because of his status and following and so forth, right? But it is what it is, right? We're kind of stuck with him. It doesn't seem like he's going anywhere, but I really wish he would not do a lot of things that kind of damage the entire industry and Tesla in particular. Charles says, very true. FSD, nowhere near what I see on influencers. I have FSD and it's good, and a rate of improvement is good, but nowhere near what I see out there. Well, I'll tell you where what it's nowhere near of, regardless whether it's Elon's Tesla or the influencers Tesla or your Charles. It's nowhere near full self-driving unless, and I always make that hilarious joke, unless you spelled fool wrong. At this point, if you're buying a Tesla and you're paying however much it now is, you're a fool, because it is not a full self-driving car, and it's probably not going to be in a long time. It is still level 2 out of 5, right? So it's nowhere near that. I think, you know, he should have never named it, because if he would have named it something like, a driver assistant or something like that, oh my god, I would tell you it's the best driver assistant in the world, right? I mean, maybe Xpeng Motors now has one that's just as good, but as far as full self-driving, it's not that at all. Yeah, and I agree with this comment as well. Gao Xing says, or Jing says, at least he got a lot done. Yeah, and listen, I wouldn't even have this job, and we wouldn't even be talking about it, and you guys wouldn't be driving cars that you're driving if it wasn't for him. Absolutely, he's done a lot of good, and Neuralink and Starlink and SpaceX have all done a lot of great things. Absolutely. Thailand better than USA. Sorry, says Charles. I agree. I agree. Unfortunate. I was an immigrant to America and used to love the country a lot. I spent 30 years there. You know what I mean? So it is unfortunate. I don't say it with any type of pleasure. Mr. R says the whole EV thing was fumbled by Elon and the government. Well, what did the government do? The government should have put out one charging standard. Um, I don't think government gets to regulate that. I don't know enough about it, and that's, I think, one good thing about me, is one of many good things about me. I was meant to say it's one thing that really separates me from a lot of other people, is that when I don't know something, I say I don't know. But I don't think they're able to dictate that. Um, just like with charging your regular phones, right? Um, uh, Okay, organic, you sure he's talking about the food that I was saying is organic? How about MSG? Okay, so organic means it's raised organically without GMO, from what I understand. So MSG is something that's added in preparation of the food. But for example, a chicken or a pork or whatever, it doesn't have MSG or whatever. It's not part of the raising process, right? Now, there is pesticides sometimes when being used when you're raising organic anything, really, and that's a separate problem. But what I'm saying, okay, I'll give you an example. By the way, here, you don't have to, and I'm not the only one. So when I was in America, I could not eat gluten. Okay, wheat. You guys know there's a lot of people like that. When I got here to Thailand, I eat gluten, covered gluten with gluten filling all the time, because wheat here is not poisoned by having a GMO and all of that stuff. So as you can see, my digestive system and digestive system of a lot of humans who come here can tell you that we can now process that. And in America, it would just be one long, lifelong food poisoning. So yeah, listen, you arguing that it is you're going to be on the losing side of the argument when you're trying to argue for the quality of food in America. Okay, there's been plenty of documentaries and articles and research of how shitty the food is in America because of how it's being raised, because there's only one company that actually even has monopoly on was it corn or some of the food. So yeah, sorry man. And listen, come here and look around, because here people in Thailand and Asia in general, it's not, or even Europe, right? It's not like they eat much less than people in America. It's the shitty food that makes you fat. People here eat a lot. As a matter of fact, the whole Thai culture is a lot of times evolved around food. I'm just about to take a walk, and I usually pass by a lot of local homes where Thai people live, and you can see that the whole family is gathered around and it's laughing and talking and all around the food. Food is everywhere here. You cannot go anywhere without having tons of delicious food around you. So, and so and so people eat a lot here, and yet most of them are very, very skinny. It's not because they don't eat as much as Americans. It's because of quality of food. Um, I'm going to catch up on the comments. Mr. R says, I can't wait to move to Thailand. America has its perks, but it's not worth the pain. Um, what are the perks? I'd love to hear. And well, actually, the next comment right after that from Charles is exactly that. So I second that. Um, and he says, paying for a strong military, low crime, divisive society. Yeah. So listen, there is something to be said about having a strong military for a big country like America. So that one is, I don't know if I agree, but the low crime, divisive. How about healthcare? I'll give you an example, okay? Now I am fine, meaning like what I'm just about to tell, I'm fine. But in America, I remember I started having, some tightness in my chest, which turned out to be nothing. And I wanted to see a cardiologist. It took me 3 weeks to schedule an appointment with a cardiologist, and then he wanted to do a stress test on my heart, and that took another, including the results coming in, took another 2 weeks. So 5 weeks to see if I'm going to have a heart attack, right? Already, what we in business call not good, right? Now here, I kind of had something very similar, not exactly, but I'm a bit of a hypochondriac, so I also went to a doctor. Now, let me tell you how long it took me from the moment I said I want to see a doctor to the moment where I saw the doctor, did the stress test, and got the results and complete, that was about 5 hours. And I went to one of the best hospitals. Well, it is the best hospital, I think Newsweek, if you look up at the top 100 hospitals in the world, it's on there, and it's the best hospital here in Thailand with Western educated doctors, top of the line equipment. And it actually inside it looks like a hotel. There are restaurants there, rooms for the kids, prayer rooms. That place does not look like a hospital. That place looks like a freaking hotel, and it's amazing. All right, catching up. Okay, I think Mr. R here responds. We have more freedom. Oh, do you have? Oh, don't get me started on freedom. You cannot say a lot of things that I can say here in Thailand without getting canceled. Yeah, you're not going to get arrested. But like I said earlier, if I'm going to start talking about what, for example, feminist movement in America has done to men, I will absolutely, if I have a job, I would get fired. If I have a YouTube channel, I would get demonetized or completely my account would be removed, even though everything that I would say would be based on facts, statistics, data, and stuff like that, right? I remember, when I was leaving America, I basically couldn't even criticize a shitty staff at a shitty restaurant when they were not doing their job, because if it's a woman or if it's a black person or whatever, as soon as I say something, it's no longer me complaining racist or homophobic or whatever it is, right? So don't tell me how, which I'm assuming you are, Mr. Right. Mr. R. I think you're Mr. Wrong on this one. Sorry. So yeah, no, I have way more freedom here. I can talk about anybody, and people do. People here talk about other people, other nationality, other races, and stuff like that, and they're allowed to do that because it's their opinions without being canceled and having their jobs and well-being taken away from them. Not really have corporate corruption. What are you talking about? America? You don't have corporate corruption. You have tons of corporate corruption. Now, corruption, half of it is legalized. I mean, that U.S. congressmen can make laws about corporations they invest into. I mean, you do understand that's awful, right? And it is just a legal corruption. So I can go on and on, but I'm sorry. Don't tell me about freedom of speech. No, shit that you can say here, you'll be completely canceled in America. So sorry about that. That's just not true. I can say so many things. There's only one thing you cannot do here in terms of speaking. You cannot criticize the royal family. That's the only thing. And you know what? I'm fine with that. I'm way way more free here than, I mean, I literally just had a discussion with a black guy about another nationality and another religion, and some of it was good and some of it was bad. But we had it out in public, and it was our opinion, and nothing happened. Where in America would probably someone would accuse us of something, right? So no, man, you have no freaking freedom of speech. All right. Let's move on to Joker MP1. Alex, what kind of car you drive? I drive an Uber. Well, I ride an Uber. Here it's called Grab. I decided not to buy a car. I decided it's the worst part of my day driving a car. Besides, of course, going on dates with American women. And I take Uber or Grab. It's called here, or Bolt, when I need to. But the public transportation here is great. There's subways, there's sky trains, there's all kinds of stuff. So that's what I do. I don't want to drive. I don't want to drive. I don't want to drive. So sorry. Let's see. Callistos Cali says maybe the focus should be on charging infrastructure rather than on making more EVs. Well, why not both? Because charging infrastructure, should be part on the government because it is an infrastructure, right? But part on car companies and other companies who want to make money on this, like EVgo, for example. So I think people say I can walk and chew gum. That's an expression I never understood. Maybe somebody can explain to me, like, has anybody ever said that they could not do both? As a matter of fact, it's kind of dangerous to do both, right? All right. Franco Pisuto, who is one of the co-founders of the original Fisker. He's got his own electric car company now, working on a hypercar. And this month, I think, Franco, right? They are releasing an all-electric, really high-end e-bike, which looks really awesome. And he says e-bikes are the future, much smaller footprint than cars. Most people drive alone anyways. Well, so I think e-bikes is the future for bikes in general, and definitely a way to get around cities that are bike friendly. For example, here in Bangkok, not so much bicycle friendly, but more like motorbike friendly, right? And those we definitely need to convert. And I don't think people understand that in large cities like Bangkok and many cities in America, obviously. I lived in Houston, the last place I lived in. It's really just about breathing. It's not political. It's not about saving a planet in general. It's about not getting lung cancer. And here in Bangkok, we definitely have that problem. So Crystal says, I use FSD pretty much daily. It has improved hugely in 4 years. Alex is right, though. It is the best driver assist, but it is not full self-driving at all and shouldn't be allowed to be named that. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Now, by the way, if you knew that it was nothing more than a really good driver assist and you still said, okay, sure, I'll give him $15,000, then I'm good with it. I'm only not good when Elon charged you $15,000, however much you paid, promised you something, and then not deliver, which is actually exactly what happened, right? Let's see. Charles says, he's talking to Mr. R, but he says, in Thailand, you have freedoms too. Cops are corrupted everywhere. If you look at the USA, we have the most political contributors. Well, okay, everything that kind of I said. Timothy said smaller meals, but more meals. I don't know if Thai people have more meals or smaller meals. No, I think the intake is very much the same. We're all humans. But here, the food, and in Europe also in some countries, the food is just a much, much, much better quality. All right. Next one. Oh, I have a super chat. Sorry. Charles, let me get to it. My first super chat of the year, because it's only my second live stream of the year. Okay. Courtney says, considering electric cars when a century with no innovation, I would say they're doing okay. As for American economy, it's not bad, but it could be better on a few metrics. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, agreed. All right, let me get to the super chat from Charles. $3 That's about 105 Thai baht here, which means I can literally buy 2 chicken over rice with soup and vegetables meals here. and then still have a bottle of water on the side. Not kidding, by the way. Um, and thank you, by the way. Those of you who are contributing, as you probably know, I've changed my format from long form to short form, which means I don't have the same sponsor. I don't have any sponsors right now because I am changing formats. In the vertical format, shorts on YouTube pay you almost nothing. So I'm kind of running this channel. I do make money other ways, but definitely I appreciate any income I can make, and a super chat is definitely one of them. Um, uh, I'm going to assume you meant pure, not pair. Character stretching his arm forward, raising his. Oh, this is just a description of a. So I'm using this streaming software so I can stream on all platforms. So whenever somebody puts an emoji, it can't get the emoji through because of probably copyright. And so it describes the emoji, and I'm going like, what the hell? Okay, yeah. Now I'm looking at on YouTube, and it is in emoji. I was like, what is he talking about? And it is a pair. Oh, it is a pair. Okay. God, it jokes on me. But anyway, thank you so much, Charles. I really do appreciate for the super chat. Um, and listen, we got the average Joe in the room. Let's see what an average Joe thinks. And he says, what's the situation on the streets of Bangkok? Full of Japanese cars? What about ICE versus hybrid versus EV? So as I mentioned earlier, since I got here a little over a year ago, I have seen the number of electric cars like quadruple, because at some point they implemented uh, the incentives, and the Chinese electric cars kind of made their way here. Tons of BYDs. They have 3 models here, where Tesla only has 2 models, though some people do bring Model S and Model X here on rare occasions. And there's still plenty of Teslas, but more and more EVs. Now, it's hard to tell ICE vehicles versus hybrids for me because I'm just not, but definitely EVs are in a minority. The revolution only started here. Full of Japanese cars, no. Full of Chinese cars, especially when it comes to electric cars. But overall, I'm just thinking, I mean, good amount of Chinese cars, but I would say it's a pretty decent mix with some even American cars, and there's still tons of Hyundais and Kias and stuff. Pretty diverse, I would have to say. He also asks, what about two-wheelers, electric versus ICE? Yeah, so people don't ride bikes here really. Like bicycles are mainly about, it's all about motorbikes, and a lot of motorbike taxis. Sometimes when you have to go somewhere, you just jump on the back of a motorbike, and it's a taxi essentially, and you can go through traffic really quick. So I I did jump on one of those that was electric the other day, but it's very, very rare for now. Very rare. Don't forget, an issue with electric motorcycles is that because they don't make noise, they lose one of the biggest safety sort of protection, right? Because when you hear a motorcycle, you know it's there, but when you don't, it's much easier to hit. So yeah. Let's see. Courtney says people sadly don't remember or know that the invention of the starter is what killed electric car in the U.S. Invention of the starter. I don't know what that means. Sorry. Maybe I'm being stupid, and maybe it's because it's 2 o'clock in the morning here. Please rephrase. Dawn says, "What about hydrogen cars? I think they may be the future." What? Why? I mean, there's like there's no infrastructure. No one's planning to make infrastructure. As a matter of fact, I know in California there's now less and less hydrogen refueling stations, which weren't that many in the first place, and nobody really makes hydrogen cars anymore. Even I remember Sandy Munro, when Sandy Munro was on my channel. One of many things that he said, what turned out to be bullshit, was that hydrogen technology will be implemented into commercial vehicles like semi trucks, boats, planes, and so forth. But that's not what's happening there either. So no, Don, I think hydrogen is kind of dead, at least for consumers for sure, but even for commercial. Mr. R says Thailand has very strict defamation laws. Well, I mentioned just one, and defamation. Well, okay, so yes. So for example, and by the way, this part I love. You can get sued for submitting a 1-star Yelp review somewhere, right? Or criticizing someone, on social media. Uh, I like that. The whole freaking American culture now is full of Karens, full of people having some sort of Yelp power. By the way, every single small business hated Yelp and still hates Yelp. It just basically gives power to Karens to get free services, you know? And so, yes, I love the fact that you cannot submit a 1 star review. I mean, you can, but you can get sued, right? I love that. If you don't like a restaurant, I mean, besides the fact any review is completely stupid because obviously you cannot order the entire menu. So if you didn't like one dish, doesn't mean that the rest of the dishes are bad. If you did like one waiter that just happened to be there, it doesn't mean that someone else is going to get the same waiter or that waiter is even still going to be there in another year. So this whole review thing is awful. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else. Vote with your money. But all this 1, 2, 3 star reviews, all of that is just one of many reasons how American culture has gone down is because of that. So I love the defamation law. I love when you cannot submit a 1 star review. So I love it. If you give it up, no, actually, you continued saying exactly that, and I didn't even read it. How did I know? I did not talk about corporate corruption. I was talking about cops shaking you down. Listen, corruption. I don't feel like is just a different type in different countries. And like I said, America is very corrupt. It's just half of it is legalized. So that's my view on that. And here's the thing, man. I'm not even preaching. You want to stay in America? By all means. By all means. Not a problem. You do you. For me, it is not a place to live at all. I literally consider America like a developing third world country now. Because by the way, how many you guys go ahead in the chat right now, tell me how many power outages or internet outages or even water being cut off, especially in Texas and California, have you had this year? Just tell me more than zero or zero. Okay? And then we'll talk because here in over a year in this developing country of Thailand, I've had zero of any of that. And in America, I had nothing but one after another after another. A little bit of wind, a little bit of rain, boom. 100,000 people without electricity in one of the richest states in the world. So, okay. Kalistos Kali says, is solar power popular in Thailand? Not yet. It is expensive. People don't have that much money here. And if you live in provinces in the rural areas, you probably cannot afford it. If you live in Bangkok here, you most likely live in a condo. So it's not, but I just hosted an event, and you can check out the video that I posted, and I'll post one more. One of the biggest events, this was the annual event for the Electric Vehicle Association of Thailand. And then there was also an exhibition, and that exhibition was full of solar panels and everything. If I actually posted a video with the solar panels behind me, I thought it was funny. So yeah, not yet. Let's move on to visual enthusiast. Alex, my wife, hates Musk and she wants to replace her. Oh, I'm assuming you meant Volkswagen Atlas. With the 2024 ID4, tried to convince her to get the Model Y. Listen, as long as she gets an electric car, we can be friends. Okay. I wouldn't buy a Model Y if my life depended on it, unless my other alternative would be a gas car. I do also know that my former assistant just bought a Model Y, and he called me and said, Alex, man, listen, I know you're going to hate me, but I'm just about to buy a Model Y, and I'll tell you why. It's not because I think it's the best electric cars, but I have enough money where I can now buy an electric car. I want to own an electric car. But it is so much cheaper than all other electric cars in with the same features that it just makes sense, right? So in that case, I said, dude, oh, sure, of course. And now ID4, I have a love-hate relationship with that. I loved that car first, and then I got one, and I had all these problems, and I realized all other people had all these problems, and Volkswagen did nothing about it. And now Volkswagen Group is kind of stepping back from electric vehicles a little bit, and they have an idiot running the company. He used to run, Porsche before that. So I don't know about buying a Volkswagen electric car, but I would say between these two, there are other ones. Here's what I would suggest. Of course, buy whatever you want to buy, or whatever she wants to buy, but at least look at others. I would recommend others. Yeah, and this is a great example of you know people maybe people hating Elon Musk so hard that they would not buy a car from him, right? So let's okay. All right, I'm not doing a good job catching up. Mr. R says I have seen tons of Asian women in Southeast Asia eat what I eat in 3 days in one sitting. Exactly. What I eat in 3 days in one sitting. Yeah, and they're very skinny here, all of them. Well, not all of them, but like 95% of them. Test. Oh, are you testing a poop icon? All right, it's worked. It's worked. Is it a poop icon? Yeah. The average Joe, Sarah Jane Lane will rewatch beginning. I'm gonna leave this live videos um up. I like the previous one. Mr. R says, "Have you been to uh, Jomtien? I don't know where it is. Is that a is that a beach near Pattaya? In Chiang Mai. I have been to Chiang Mai. I'm probably gonna go there next month. Chiang Mai is not bad. However, it's not for me. That place becomes Sacramento after 10 p.m., which I mean by just shuts down. I remember I was like at the not a club but a lounge with live music where here it would go for till 3 in the morning in Bangkok, but like they would literally turn the lights off and everybody left by midnight. And I like the nightlife. I don't mean clubbing, but just nightlife. Um, so I can't live there. Plus, Chiang Mai is once a year gets such pollution, not from cars or anything like that, but when nearby countries like Laos burns their crops, and that basically travels to Chiang Mai in that area. The the pollution, the air quality is so poor you can't even clean it with air purifiers inside a lot of times, and it's like a 300 AQI. So I can't live like that. So it's not for me. And if you mean the beach, Jomtien Beach near Pattaya, it's still kind of Pattaya. I want to have nothing with Pattaya to do with Pattaya. I call it an asshole of Thailand. It's not a place I want to be. I don't like the people. It's basically kind of a sex pet type of a city. So no, thank you. Let's see. Next one, the nerdy Arab. Is there a US EV you miss having now living abroad? You mean the one that I drove? Because I only in America I only drove Tesla. I had three Model S's and a plug-in hybrid in Chevy Volt, which I love dearly, and then the uh, Volkswagen ID4. So are you asking me, do I miss any particular car models that I don't see here as often or at all? I love Mustang Mach-E, but I've seen him here in a while. We even have ID buses here. But maybe you can rephrase the question. But all right, and this question needs to be rephrased. Pierre says, "WTF? Are you crazy?" Please clarify. Courtney says, "Invention of the starter." The starter. Oh, back when you had to crank ice cars in the. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, I know. I've also heard this thing where electric cars back in the day, like 100 years ago, were created specifically for women because they were easier. You don't have to crank it up, right? Um, and but they just never stuck. But it is what it is. Best don't always win, right? This is why we have companies that are not really that great. They don't put out great products, and yet they're number one. Off the top of my hand, one of the platforms I'm streaming to is LinkedIn, for example. It's a good example. Um, AMPM says, "Would you legally marry outside of your race?" What made you ask? What made you ask me this question? Kind of weird, because first of all, I would not legally marry in the United States. That is a horrible deal for any man. I think it's a stupid thing to do if you have any money. So no way I would ever do it, and I've never have. My relationships that lasted 5, longest was 7 years. I never got married because of that. Um, but I would say, I mean, here I would definitely marry outside of my. First of all, I don't mind getting married here, and obviously I will marry most likely a Thai woman. And in America, for the last over 10 years, I've dated pretty much black women exclusively. So yes, yeah, absolutely. Um, Pierre says Alex gone rough. Yes, is very strange. I don't know what it means. Please clarify. Oh, there you go. So, okay, well, not many of you participated here, but okay, say average Joe says internet outage every 2 to 3 months. Okay, all right. Sorry about your developing country problems. But you want more of you could have participated, by the way. 170 of you watching. Crystal says, to be fair, Alex, you spend most of your time in the US, in California and Texas, which both have the most unstable power grids in the US. Yeah, but these are one of the richest states at the same time, right? So, and at the same time, I'm living in Bangkok, one of the largest cities in the world. So I think the comparison is actually quite fair. And if anything, we should have unstable infrastructure here rather than in America with all these regulations and so forth and so forth, right? All right, Mr. R, please do not get me wrong. I want to come back to Thailand and stay for 2 years. Why 2 years? Why not forever, like I am? Not a Thailand basher. I consider Thailand a top tier country. I absolutely agree. But listen, I don't see this is the thing. I'm not an American anymore. I'm not going to assume you're bashing anything if you have an opinion that challenges mine. Okay, so don't confuse me with an American. I'm no longer one in my heart, I guess. Crystal says the power grid here in Nevada is super stable, so it's pretty dependent on where you live in the U.S. Well, I lived in Las Vegas. I don't remember, Crystal, but I do think my internet went out a few times. Oh, okay. So I'm just catching up with these. Um, our triplet says it's all stable here in Colorado as well. What do you mean stable? I asked you. Why can't you guys answer a simple question? Zero or not zero? That was my question. That's it. Okay, so Mr. R clarified. Yeah, okay, so I have been to Jamtiem Beach. Not impressed. Like I said, Pattaya area is just not for me. And plus, there's too many nasty foreigners and tourists there. Um, let's see. Here's a question. The average Joe asks me, "What is your view of EV microcars? They're cheap and enough for living in a city." No. Did you see many in Asia? So we don't have that many microcars here. And I mean, here's the thing: microcars are good in probably crowded cities and cities where there's not enough parking and stuff like that. Maybe San Francisco can use them. Um, I don't. My opinion of it is bring them on. I mean, if they're electric, I'm behind that. Um, Gao Jing says, do you have kids or planning to have in the future? No. So my second best decision in my life, I think, was to move to Thailand. As difficult as it was, trust me, it was very difficult. I love my life in America. At the end of the day, I have friends and family. My parents are there. But it was tough. But the first best decision I've ever made is not to have children. No offense to anybody who have children. By the way, thank you guys very much. I need somebody to pay into my social security fund when I'll need it. So absolutely no problem. As a matter of fact, most of my friends have kids. By the way, I love kids. I love kids. I mean, except for like non well-behaved ones, but it's not even their fault. It's usually their parents' fault. But yeah, I don't want to have any of my own. I think most of the amazing things that I've done in my life would not be possible, including moving to Thailand if I had kids. Um, love playing with my friends' kids, love hanging out with them, taking them to the zoo and everything. I have two nieces on top of that, but nope, not for me. But again, not preaching at all. And I see more and more people not having children, including here, including women. Um, Chanchai Visas? Sorry. Alex, did you go to Prachun Bukirikhan yet? Uh, I can't pronounce it yet, but it is on my list. As a matter of fact, somebody who I know is visiting there and sending me pictures. I know it's a 2-hour train ride, right? And please do let me know what you like about that place, but absolutely on my list. Ever since I came here to Thailand, I've also visited 12 other countries and 4 other cities in Thailand. In the middle of, figuring out how to live here, in the middle of, running my channel, in the middle of doing many other things, including traveling and dating and having hobbies and making new friends. So I am behind on some things that I would like to do, but just never haven't gotten to yet. I went to IUTI, which is very similar from what I understand, and I liked it. In America, when I lived in the Bay Area, I really, 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 really loved Santa Cruz and Carmel. My most favorite place on earth. I miss it. I miss it dearly. So I've been looking for my Santa Cruz here, and IUTI was on the list. And so is this place that you mentioned, but I haven't found one yet. Art Triplet says that it was a stupid and nearsighted and personal question about marriage. Um, where was the question? Are you asking? You said I was asking questions about marriage. Sorry, you gotta have to qualify. But I don't mind any of the questions that are personal or whatever if you're talking about somebody asking me. Um, Gas cars are never going away. Okay, whenever somebody says never, they're usually probably going to be proven wrong before or after they die. So I wouldn't say that. Just like I wouldn't say I never come to America again, or I never going to live in America again. Um, Gas cars are going to take a minute to go away. Just like I still see people riding horses, right? Um, and a lot of times it will probably gas cars will become a kind of an antique kind of a thing where people want to drive them once in a while and stuff like that. But you know, so next, you guys reading my mind says our triplet says horses never went away either. Okay, so we're on the same page. Um, Rolando says, "Do you think BYD will outperform Tesla in quality and price?" Price is a tricky thing. Price here in Thailand, I don't know. Price in America, no, not with tariffs, right? Quality, I mean, is it really that hard to outperform Tesla in quality? I don't think that's a very high bar. But honestly, things change so fast everywhere in the world, including the auto industry, that predicting stuff like that doesn't make sense. Plus, again, it's hard to measure. How do you measure quality, right? Some people will say, panel gaps, and some people will say, well, how long does this car go without, on average, without maintenance or without repairs? So it's really tricky, right? So I can't answer it. I would be a fool to answer that. Our triplet says zero outages of any kind. Let me know where you live, though, please. And then he also says, does it make sense to try to rent a home in Bangkok, not in a super busy area? I can't give advice without knowing your situation. I personally love living in a luxury condo with a view, and then we have a rooftop. Like a lot of videos that you guys see with me with an amazing view in the background, that's our rooftop of my apartment building. 45 floors we have here. Um, if you love the view, for example, and these views are amazing. Not only the view is amazing when we have thunderstorms for several months, which is right now, you can see like amazing lightning shows here. You know what I mean? So it is amazing. So it really does. Why do you need a home? That's another thing. It's things are different here. You just don't know. Like you show up here, you think you want one thing, but the life is it's hard to explain how different the life is here, and you don't know. So it will make sense. Only you can tell if it will make sense after living here for a year at least. You know. All right. I think I almost caught up. Rohit asks, is there a big market for Chinese EVs? EVs in EU, they're blocking them, so no cheap EVs for us. I mean, here's what's going to happen. All these Chinese manufacturers that will come to Europe and America and build their factories there. Uh, and people don't know that here in Thailand, we have tons. It's a huge auto industry here. We have tons of car factories here. BYD just finished theirs last week, and because there are no tariffs from Thailand to America, that's where the cars are going to be built, or in Mexico, or like Hyundai and Kia doing in Volvo in America. And then there will be no. Don't forget, tariffs are not on manufacturers. Tariffs are on cars where they're made. So, for example, if Tesla was to bring their cars that they made in China to America, that would cost double. But if they continue making the same cars in Texas and California, well, they will have no tariffs, right? So they will be cheaper, not as cheap in China, but they will be cheaper once they come there and build their factories. Our triplet says, no, Alex, when someone asked you, okay, but did somebody ask me about marriage? Listen, here's the thing. I You can ask me anything. I don't get offended by any question. If I don't want to answer a question, I won't. But honestly, I'm an open book. I have nothing to hide. So you can ask me all kinds of questions. I'm not going to get offended at all. Um, okay, so you are in Colorado, no outages. I think you're the second person who's in Colorado without any outages. So, okay, all right. I think I have answered all of your questions, and I think I kind of also, um, answered the question: why are we seeing so many articles and YouTubers and comments about how electric cars are done and everything's just done? Electric cars suck. Finally, the thing. Again, we are having a rough year, definitely rough year, but at the same time, I don't see this. I mean, there's just no going back at this point. There's no going back. I mean, obviously, Elon Musk is not going to stop. Tesla is still by far overall leader in the industry, most valued company, biggest publicity, and all that stuff. So I don't see this going away anytime soon. Even Toyota, right, very anti-company, ended up firing their CEO essentially. And when you fire your CEO when their last name matches the building, uh, it tells you something, right? And they are finally selling the BZ4X cars more and more and working on others. So it is a thing. So I'm not worried. I think this is all fluff. I think this is just like the dying. Have you ever had like a flu and you were like feeling better once you start taking antibiotics or whatever, and or just on your own, and then there will be just one day when you still get like that one few hours of fever and cough or whatever. It's like the virus is in the last hours of its life. I think that's what really happening here. It's just like this is the last chance the haters will are going to hate. It is political, unfortunately, so that's why we're hearing this. Mr. R says it just seems like you cannot get out of the tiny condos unless you cross the 1200 USD. So I like my tiny condo because the life in Bangkok is so full of everything. Like I don't like spending my time here. I mean, why would you want to spend your time in your condo when there's a million things that you can do out there? Like I don't even want to cook at home ever. I'm on also intermittent fasting on top of that, but like you why would like I never understand why people cook at home here. I really don't. Like go out, have all that amazing food, right? Why are you sitting at home in the evening or even during the afternoon? There are so many parks and amazing bakeries and coffee shops. You have to understand coffee shops here are not like Starbucks. Oh yeah, they have as a matter of fact, there's Starbucks in my freaking buildings now. But like the coffee shop I go to, it's a bakery that bakes fresh stuff and pizzas and food. It's always delicious. It's fresh. It's super cheap. You have very fast internet. Internet here is way faster than in Europe and definitely in America. Um, and you have friendly people and many other things going on. And they have, why would you be in your condo? I don't know. But my condo cost me about $600 a month. It is one of the most luxurious condo, towers here. I love my unit, full service, right? Um, and yeah, I mean, but yeah, you want a penthouse. You As soon as you want to live really bougie, you're gonna start getting closer to paying American prices. Just like you want to go to Starbucks for some reason, you're gonna, your hot chocolate, your coffee, whatever, you're gonna cost closer to what you would pay for it in America. But if you love Thai food, if you don't need a penthouse with a bell, then these condos are very, very, very nice. And to me, a lot of times, most important part of my condo is actually my bathroom, and I have an amazingly beautiful bathroom. So I that was very important to me. But yeah, I mean, you can pay a lot of money for stuff and actually spend more money than you do in America if you want to like show off and be rich and all that stuff. Mr. R says, thank you for doing this. Absolutely. Thank you for hanging out. You guys doing this with me makes me want to do it next week, even though I don't earn any money, well, except for $3 that I've earned, right? Joker MP1 says, Alex, have you ever visited the Philippines? How different than Thailand? I have. Before buying a 5-year visa here, which is quite costly, I went to Cebu City, because a lot of people ignore this, but I do. I don't. First of all, I cannot own a gun here or in the Philippines. I want a safe place. I want to be safe. I want to know that my family, my girlfriend is safe. And Cebu City was, like I wouldn't live in Manila, for example, but Cebu City was pretty safe. And I went there. I stayed there for 2 weeks, and I Airbnb'd it. I didn't stay on a hotel. I wanted to live there for a couple of weeks. And I do have to say, you're probably guys going to be surprised by what I'm just about to say, but I liked dating there better. Dating options, how much flirtier and better dressed women are there, and all of that stuff. But um, you know, infrastructure wise and a standard of living, no matter how much money you have, is just not good enough. There was no fast internet anywhere, not even Starbucks. At most, you will get like a little coupon for 1 hour internet, and it will be going in and out, and it's going to be pretty slow. So that's a deal breaker for me, no matter what. The transportation was awful. I mean, Uber cars were either really bad, made out of cardboard, or just bad. A lot of times they didn't have seat belts on, and a lot of times I couldn't call an Uber even. Like I remember I went to a mall and it started to rain, and then everybody wanted to order one, and then I ended up being trapped in the mall like a child, waiting for his mom to pick him up. You know, and I couldn't leave for 2 hours. Can't do that. And I didn't really explore hospitals there and healthcare, but I'm assuming it's not the best. Um, so yeah, I've decided to stay in Thailand. Like I said, even though I felt dating there was much better, and you didn't have to learn any other languages. Everybody speaks English in the Philippines. I still decided to stay here. And again, I cannot emphasize enough how difficult Thai language is. It is very, 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 very difficult. Um, Gao Jings says, "Do you still have Tesla shares, BYD or legacy OEM shares?" No. So I sold my Tesla shares at some point because it was kind of unreasonable to expect it to grow, which it did. But also I sold them because I bought a house with it. But I also knew that once I was becoming actually my channel started to grow, once I started covering other automakers and getting sponsorships, it is an unethical thing to do, is to essentially talk about something where you're making money by talking about it. Whenever I was sponsored, I would always put the logo of the sponsor right here. I would always announce the sponsor. It would always be in the description of the video. The video would be marked as sponsors, and on top of that, every video had a link to a video explaining my relationship with sponsors, which every single one of them included the clause where they cannot control my content. So I think when other influencers do that, that's, by the way, that's one of the reasons I kicked Sandy Monroe out of this channel. Now you know. Uh, now you know. Yeah, because I realized he was taking money or investing and not mentioning it, and then bashing the other brands of their competitors, and that was not okay with me. I never done it, never will. Now I am thinking about investing in S&P 500 and Dow Jones. Um, but you would look at those as portfolios that you buy regardless of what's in it. And if Tesla is in there, that's fine. I don't think anybody in their right mind would want to say anything. Well, if anything, when I would be saying something negative about Tesla, it would kind of technically be going against my own money. But I don't think someone like me can move markets, and so I'm comfortable investing in the index like S&P 500 and Dow Jones. That's what I'm probably going to invest. So, all right, guys, listen, I was only going to do this for 1 hour. I still have a few other things to do. But thank you for hanging out with me. I mean, plenty of you watched. I definitely want to, before I go, actually, why don't we vote here? How many of you think that I should do, at least for the next time? Three choices. One, for me to have a guest, like maybe Warren or Tom Malogny or someone else. Two is to, basically essentially just hang out, talk about the topic, and then essentially hang out with you guys, answer questions and stuff like that. And three, to talk about my life here in Thailand, reasons why I moved, and essentially I was going to make a video about, what my thoughts are, looking back at my one of the biggest decisions anybody can really make a year later, now that I know, that what happened. And Mr. R is right. Give this guy a like, if anything, or maybe a super chat. Either way, absolutely give this video a like. I would really appreciate. How many likes do we have on YouTube? Actually, let's see if we can up it a little bit. How many? By the way, it's amazing. So 49 watching on YouTube, but I can see it's 175 watching altogether. So it looks like the majority is not even watching on YouTube. I want to find out where are you guys watching me from? Um, where are you guys watching me from? Is this on X? Now I'm curious. Sorry, guys. But in the chat, can you tell me where you which platform you're watching me on? Because I am wondering how in the world. Let's see. I don't even know. Oh wow, you are watching me mainly on Twitter. That's pretty cool. All right. Thank you. Well, I'm gonna like my own video. Um, yeah, see, YouTube is just no longer a platform for a lot of things. So I'm actually not surprised. Yeah, 131 on X. Good times. All right. Guest or no guest? Okay, some of you watching on it. So it looks like it's YouTube and X. All right. So let me see how I feel next time. If there's a big news to talk about, we're gonna talk about it. But I do also want to make a video about sort of my 1 year report about what I expected, what it turned out to be, which is very different. I did cover a lot of it here, but I probably want to go into details. And I do want to have a guest as well. Maybe I should just rotate those. But this has been really fun. This is really fun. Melody of 1974. I remember you. I remember some of you guys from good old days when I was doing these daily and weekly. So and Crystal is watching me on YouTube as well. Okay, all right. Well, don't forget to give me a like on whatever platform you're watching me, and I will see you guys next Wednesday. This is the latest I can do this. Which is 1 a.m. my time, which I think is in California is like 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. So, but I hope it works. Thanks for participating, guys. This is so much fun for me. Definitely made my week, and I'm hoping to do the same